Hey guys, and welcome back to MadAboutSkin. In today's video, we're answering a question that you guys throw at me day in, day out, and that is, why are US sunscreens just so bad? I cover a lot of my sunscreen favourites here on the channel, but usually those products come out of the UK, the European Union, Australasia, or the Korean or Japanese sunscreen markets. Very few of them actually come from the US, which leads a lot of the US viewers saying, why can't we get these fantastic products here in the States? There's a couple of reasons for that, and I kind of want to unpick it in today's video, offering you some fantastic alternatives along the way so you can make the very best decision for your own skincare routine. Sit back, relax, let's talk all things US sunscreens. Now before we get into this video, just a quick reminder to do all that YouTubey stuff if you haven't already. You might notice with a slightly huskier voice today that I think I've come down with a cold or something, but I'm battling through because honestly I think this is a topic I've been really excited to talk about and done quite a lot of research behind. I would really appreciate it if you reached out and give this video a big thumbs up and a like, because the more likes the video gets, the more widely YouTube distributes on its platform. And this is a message that I think really is worth getting out there and having heard. Sound off in the comment section below with any of your favourite US sunscreens. Are there any products that you think are genuinely worthy of a try and review? Because I'd love to put a few on order, because subsequent to this video I'm going to be sharing with you the very best US sunscreens, so if you are in the States you have some fantastic alternatives to reach for. But with all that being said, shall we just cut that waffle and delve straight on in? And first and foremost, let's just issue a little bit of a caveat and a disclaimer, and that's to say, whilst I'm not the biggest fan of US sunscreens, honestly I think there are so many amazing products and the US regulations just hold these products back. However, any sunscreen is better than no sunscreen, and I always say choose a product that meets your budget, your skin type, and how you want to wear it. A lot of us might not have access to some of the Korean, European, or Australasian sunscreens, and if that's the case for you, absolutely, these US sunscreens are still giving you tried and tested protection, particularly against UVB radiation. There's just a few caveats that I want to throw in later in the video. Always wear your sunscreen. I guess that's kind of a story that I want to get out there. Recently I covered in a video a bit about sunscreen shaming, which seems to be a trend that's emerging online. No one should be shamed for maybe using something different to another person. I'll leave a link to that video up there, definitely one to check out. Now when we talk US sunscreen, some of the biggest criticisms that are thrown at this market is the products come with a higher price point than some of their drugstore alternatives, particularly out of the European Union. A lot of the US sunscreens do irritate the eyes, particularly if you have pre-existing sensitivity. And also they often feel heavier on the skin, they're less elegant on application. There's quite a few reasons for that, and I think a lot of these criticisms are actually valid, and I've tried a couple of the US counterparts or alternatives to some US brands. Take for example this is the La Roche-Posay Anthelios UV Immune 400, one of my favourite sunscreens, which I did like a full rundown on in a recent video, which I'm going to leave a link to up there for you to check out. This is the US counterpart, still called the La Roche-Posay Anthelios Fluid, but this has a completely different ingredient profile, completely different set of UV filters. They apply very different. This is super lightweight, blends in really well, and gives much broad spectrum coverage. The US equivalent, whilst it has the same name, is thicker. It takes a while to work into the skin, feels heavier, and doesn't give the same high quality UVA coverage as its UK or EU counterpart. So let's talk about some of the reasons for this. First and foremost, regulation. So the US really stands out against a lot of other countries in the world because the FDA, which is the regulator for the US, treats sunscreens as medicines rather than as cosmetics. Here in the UK, in the European Union, and in a lot of other territories, sunscreens are classed as cosmetics, which means they have to go through a lot less rigorous testing than any medicines would in those countries. Now a lot of people highlight this as like being a benefit when it comes to the US market because their sunscreens go through much more rigorous testing. In a lot of ways that's absolutely the case, but, and here's the big caveat in all of this, the FDA actually haven't approved a new UV filter for use in sunscreens since the 1990s. The whole world has moved on. Technology, science, chemistry, everything's moved on, and the FDA are still clinging to their old style UV filters, which means that actually, as a result of that, they're not testing these newer generation filters for safety and efficacy. They're just leaving the old filters on the market, which is why the US market hasn't really moved on when the rest of the world seems to have. Now, a lot of people will say the US regulators don't actually allow a whole lot of filters to be used in sunscreen. That's actually a myth. They allow and have approved quite a few different filters, 22 in total. However, a lot of these are so outdated and old-fashioned. Formulators just cannot get them to work in sunscreen formulations in a way that anyone would want to buy. So this really limits the pool down to around 4 to 6 filters that are actually used in commercial sunscreens. This is a little bit problematic because some of our favourite sunscreens, the Tinosorb range, you've got the UV Immune from La Roche-Posay, these offer really lightweight and elegant application. They often add to a better and enhanced level of UVA protection, which is the rays that are going to age the skin, and overall just a better user experience. Because the FDA hasn't actually approved any of these newer generation filters, they're just not available for sale in the US in physical stores, and US manufacturers just can't use them. Now, it's not the government's fault. Actually, the US government has tried a couple of times recently to introduce regulation to kind of speed up the testing and the approval of these newer generation filters. The FDA just hasn't really gone with the times and hasn't actually allowed that legislation to kind of take effect. It's kind of just stalled a little bit, which is a shame because there's so many amazing, better functioning filters out there that just aren't accessible to the US market. It's also a little bit daft because we live in a global world. So as a US consumer, if you wanted to get your hands on any of the amazing European, Australasian or Asian sunscreens, you absolutely can. You just have to pay a bit more shipping and maybe some import duties, but you can get your hands on these products. And I know a lot of people out there that are using these day in, day out in their skincare routines with amazing results. Another criticism a lot of people throw at US sunscreens is they come with a relative high price point, particularly if you compare like drugstore sunscreens in the US to the drugstore sunscreens in the UK or in Asia. It's very, very much an inflated price point. There's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, if you want to take your products through testing and treating them as a medicine, it comes with much more rigorous testing, which of course the price of that mounts up. Also, the US market has a lot less competition, so there's not really that price competition keeping the prices of these sunscreens low. It's a bit of a captive market. This is the main reason why a lot of sunscreen manufacturers just say, you know what, it's too much hassle to actually sell into the US, which is why we just don't bother. Let the US consumer import our products if they want to. We're not going to go through the process of requiring, you know, all this testing and this expense. And that amount of choice is vastly diminished, which is why a lot of the price actually does go up. Also, with these older style formulations and filters, you really have to work on the other formulation elements within that sunscreen to kind of deliver a nice feel to the skin. Certain brands do really do this, and I'm going to follow this video up with my favourite US sunscreens, so if you're in that market and you want to shop local, you've got some options. It just takes an awful lot of chemistry know-how and formulation to get these older style filters to actually work well on the skin. This drives up the price, which is why a lot of US sunscreens do come with a higher price point than what you traditionally see here in Europe. The third criticism is the longevity of protection that you get. Most US sunscreens will require you to reapply them every 2 hours. That's because the older style filters aren't as photostable or need a lot of other ingredients or other filters used alongside them to just stabilize everything out. Some of the newer generation filters actually remain photostable and effective for much longer, which is why here in the UK you can get 8-hour wear sunscreens, which is amazing. If you're on the go, you just want to put your sunscreen on in the morning and walk out that door, not worrying about reapplication. The same products are available in Australia, New Zealand, and a lot of other territories. You can't get these style of products in the US because the filters that are regulated and approved for use just don't have that photo stability that give that long-term protection, which is why you do have to keep reapplying US sunscreens, which is another reason a lot of people just think, oh, I'm done with them, it's just a little bit too much faff. It shouldn't be. Definitely use your sunscreens, but I think this is another very valid criticism when it comes to the sunscreens out of the North American market. So there we have it. That's my thoughts and feelings. So if we were to summarise, I know a lot of people might be out there saying, well, actually, all that might be true, but at least the FDA put through all the UV filters through rigorous testing, which really, you know, make sure that they're living up to the standards you'd expect of a medicine rather than just a cosmetic. This is actually true, but I think the FDA are also a little bit blinkered. So a lot of these newer generation filters have been used safely in the European Union and in Australia for years. In fact, the European Union and the Australian regulators have both said, we'll share with you our safety data to help you make an enhanced decision on allowing these filters in the US, and the FDA said, no, we're not interested. And I think it's that slightly resistant approach which has led a lot of people to say, you know, I'm kind of done with US sunscreens. There's just better products out there. Now, one market segment I think the US does genuinely excel is with mineral-based sunscreens. Because one of the most heavily promoted UV filters in America is zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, both known collectively as mineral UV filters, a lot of products now contain these. And this is where I think some of the technology and the formulation is more advanced than the mineral sunscreens you'll see here in Europe or in some other territories. So if not all is there to despair, if you like a good mineral sunscreen and it matches your skin tone and what you want to get out of the product, there are some really well formulated US mineral sunscreens that I think can deliver game-changingly good results for your skincare routine. I think it's just a shame that these better filters, which actually give a better spectrum of coverage, particularly when it comes to UVA radiation, just aren't available to the US market. But whilst we call out the US approved filters as being traditional, old style, older generation, they still work really, really well when it comes to protecting against UVB radiation. So you can still get the same great outcomes from US sunscreens, which is why I say don't despair, don't give up on them, still use them because you're getting that protection. You might not just be enjoying the products as much as you could if the FDA just budged a little bit and allowed some some of these newer generation filters to enter the market. I think a recent example of this is the Glow Respiratory Watermelon Niacinamide Sunscreen. People had high expectations when this hit the market, but a lot of people were like, oh, this stings the eyes, it balls up, it pills, it's so heavy on the skin. Why would anyone reach for this? And I think a lot of us in the UK, Europe, and some other territories were genuinely shocked because we were like, why is this so bad? It's because they're using traditional style US approved filters, because Glow Recipe is a US based brand that manufactures out of the US. I think this really shone a sharp relief onto the quality of US sunscreens that maybe we weren't, particularly here in Europe, aware of in the past. Don't worry though, because coming later in this week, I'm going to share with you my favourite US sunscreens, tried, tested, independently verified, and would make great additions to your skincare routine, so stay tuned for that. And leave in the comment section below any of your favourite products from the US market, because I'd love to expand my repertoire and put some of these products on order. Wherever you are in the world, guys, stay safe, stay well, and love your skin. Take care. Bye!